Ibaka trying to stay with Durant, knocks it away, and Durant slipping. Durant goes down holding his leg. Ibaka goes up and is fouled down the other end.
So I'm sure we all remember this. Game 5 of the 2019 NBA Finals, Golden State Warriors versus Toronto Raptors, and the entire storyline of the Golden State Warriors playoff run was without a doubt, when's Kevin Durant coming back? Is Kevin Durant even going to come back? He was sidelined with a calf strain at the time, but things were starting to get very tense in the series between the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. And it was beginning to look more and more likely that the Golden State Warriors were going to need some help if they wanted to win another championship. So as a result of this, Kevin Durant began to feel the pressure. And a lot of people think that the Golden State Warriors put this pressure on him, but no, when you are in the NBA Finals and you see a chance to win a championship, without a doubt, you're putting that pressure on yourself if you want to be one of the greatest players to have ever played the game. And Kevin Durant, I'm not saying is the greatest to have ever played the game, because that's a whole different video, a whole different topic, and a whole different conversation with a bunch of different players that we could include in that topic as well. But he is a player that could compete for the title of greatest to have ever played the game, and I'm sure we could all agree with that. He is that talented. So when you are in the NBA Finals and you see an opportunity to potentially win an NBA championship, you're going to do whatever the hell you can to get yourself out there. But that's not what this video is about, because we all know what ended up happening. Kevin Durant made his decision, and as a result, he ended up tearing his Achilles tendon. Now, whenever he tore his Achilles, I immediately thought of Kobe Bryant. I immediately thought of DeMarcus Cousins. I thought of Rudy Gay. I thought of Chauncey Billups. I thought of Dominique Wilkins and Elton Brand. I've thought of many great players that have torn their Achilles in the past and have returned to the NBA as a shell of their former self. I saw Kobe Bryant's superhero-like basketball ability sucked out of him like he was in Space Jam when he tore his left Achilles. I saw DeMarcus Cousins literally barely able to move out there when he returned from tearing his Achilles. And of course, he was kind of rushed back from injury, but you guys get what I'm saying. He didn't look like the same DeMarcus Cousins, and who knows, maybe this year he'll look even better. He's probably the youngest player on the list of players that I included to have torn his Achilles. But I saw players like Rudy Gay, whose entire game was built off of their athleticism, tear his Achilles. Now, what I want to tell you guys in this video, and it wasn't until I just was doing some browsing on the internet that this was brought to my attention. But before we get to that, I wanted to give a quick message from our sponsor. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever damn near nicked your ball sack or completely ended up chopping your dick off? Well, there's a company here that's sole mission is to prevent this from ever happening again, and they are called Manscaped. Manscaped designed a perfect shaver to ensure that you never nick your balls again, called the Lawnmower 2.0. And as you can see, it's also waterproof, and you could use it on other areas other than just your balls. Now, this company is so legitimate that they were able to secure a huge investment from Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. And I also got a promo code for you guys to use for 20% off. Use promo code Theflightmike to get yourself a nice little discount whenever you shop for Manscaped products. I was listening to Gilbert Arenas' podcast recently, and I heard that there's a very huge difference between Kevin Durant's Achilles tear and Kobe Bryant's Achilles tear, DeMarcus Cousins' Achilles tear, and Rudy Gay's Achilles tear. And for those of you guys that don't know what an Achilles tendon tear is, it's the tearing of the tendon that pretty much connects the heel to the lower part of your leg without getting too anatomical with it. So the moment this snaps, you're not really going to have the ability to push off your leg as well. But so players like John Wall, whose entire game is built off of athleticism, might not be as athletic anymore. That's the thing we're dealing with Kevin Durant here. We saw Kobe Bryant come back, and he was great, but he started becoming fairly inefficient and ineffective and eventually decided to pack it in. Now, the big difference here between Kevin Durant, who, when I said he tore his Achilles, I blew it out of proportion a little bit. When I saw KD tear his Achilles, I was beginning to wonder why teams wanted to even sign him, because, again, it's an Achilles tendon tear. We know the story. We know what happens here. once a player tears his Achilles. But Kobe Bryant, get this, Kobe Bryant tore his left Achilles. DeMarcus Cousins tore his left Achilles. Rudy Gay also tore his left Achilles. Chauncey Billups his left, Elton Brand his left, but Dominique Wilkins tore his right Achilles. And Kevin Durant also tore his right Achilles. Now, why is this a big deal? Because your left Achilles, if you're a basketball player, your dominant leg whenever you're trying to drive into the basket, the leg that you're doing all your jab stepping with and whatnot, that's your left leg. That's your dominant leg. That's the leg you push off of, and that's the leg you need to get burst. But Kevin Durant tore his Achilles on his non-dominant leg, and I think that's where things get a little bit interesting, because if you go ahead and take a look at Dominique Wilkins' statistics, Dominique tore his Achilles tendon on January 28, 1992 against the Philadelphia 76ers, and by the time he came back the very next year, his points per game remained relatively untouched. In fact, he actually averaged more points per game. He lowered the amount of turnovers times he turned over the ball. He got nearly the same amount of rebounds. He had 6.8 rebounds the year after as opposed to 7 rebounds the year before. His field goal percentage actually went up. He was a way more efficient shooter. It went from a 48% from the field to a near 51% from the field. So the 92 to 93 season for Dominique Wilkins looked pretty good. He actually improved his game a little bit, and that's because he was able to further evolve his game to not really be based around his athleticism. And if you think about Dominique Wilkins' game, that's pretty hard to do, because whenever you think of Dominique Wilkins, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think of high flying dunks and super athleticism. But check this out, Dominique doubled his win shares the year after from 5.1 to 10.5. He became a way more efficient and way better player. His player efficiency rating went from a 22.2 to a 24.3, and this is just the first year. Obviously, we're not going to see a continuous upward trend, because this is of course going into the twilight of his career. Dominique Wilkins tore his Achilles in his 11th year. Now, in the 1993-94 season, Dominique Wilkins did a fairly good job in terms of his efficiency and his scoring. He still averaged the same around the same amount of points per game, although not nearly as dominant. His numbers dropped from 29.9 points per game to 26 points per game, but at the same time, his field goal percentage didn't drop very much. It actually only dropped about 3%, and this is after tearing his Achilles tendon. So for the most part, Dominique Wilkins was a fairly efficient player. In fact, he didn't see his efficiency rating move at all. It was still around a 21 entire career, because at this point, Dominique Wilkins was 34 years old, and as a 34-year-old, he was still playing very, very well for a 34-year-old with a torn Achilles. He averaged 29.1 points per game for the Clippers, and then he had one season for the Celtics, and in that season with the Celtics, he only averaged about 18 points per game. Went to play for Greece a little bit at the age of 36, came back, played a season for the Spurs in the 97 season, averaged 18 points again, which is fairly fantastic because at this point he's 37, and then took one more year off and was a bench warmer for the Orlando Magic in the 1999 season. But what I'm trying to say here is, obviously his career declined, but we're talking about an aging Dominique Wilkins here. Kevin Durant's 30 years old, and he injured his non-dominant Achilles in his leg, and we could pretty much still come to expect the same things from Kevin Durant once he comes back than before. He could still get his shot from anywhere he wants. He could still score from any part of the basketball court. Granted, Dominique Wilkins' game wasn't the exact same once he came back. He lost a decent amount of athleticism, but he was so good that he was able to adapt his game and still be an elite player. He didn't go above the rim as much, and he started shooting a lot more. Kevin Durant doesn't really exclusively rely on his athleticism, and obviously his first step matters a lot, and clearly he's a great finisher, but I assume Kevin Durant should be able to have a far more easier time adapting to his new game, creating a new game for himself, and being successful than Dominique Wilkins was, because again, when you think of Kevin Durant, you don't think only athleticism. he has a certain element of finesse to his game. So it's for that reason that I think Kevin Durant's going to be okay, and I think Kevin Durant's going to come back stronger than ever. However, I can't really say the same thing for John Wall, and I've already made a video on why I think John Wall's career is more than less done, because John Wall actually injured his left Achilles, and that's the dominant leg Achilles, and his game is mainly athleticism, mostly athleticism. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about Kevin Durant's injury? Do you think he's going to come back the same? Do you think he's going to be a little bit different? Or do you think he's going to come back a shell of his former self? I'd like to hear what you guys have to say.